Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is going to be a review of the 2010 PWG Battle of Los Angeles. Um, I don't know what to say about these shows. I mean, this whole tournament. It was kind of disappointing, I would say. I'm not really like there was a lot of good stuff on these shows, but the disappointment factor is extremely high, and the fans were very disappointed as well. I mean, they vented their frustrations. This show kind of reminded me of Final Battle 2009 a little bit, as far as the way the fans perceived the show. I would just say that. But yeah, for those that don't know, Joey Ryan actually won the PWG Battle of Los Angeles, which is kind of a weird choice because Joey Ryan is one of the longest reigning PWG champions of all time. And he's kind of like been on the back burner. Really hasn't been doing much. A lot of people don't really consider him a great wrestler, and the fact that he won this thing is kind of makes a lot of people think PWG is taking a step backwards. But in my opinion, I think the reason they did it is because they had Omega as champion, they had Davey as champion. Those guys did not really commit to the company and kind of left them in the dust. And now I think PWG wants to protect themselves and give the crown to someone that's going to be there. And Joey Ryan has been part of the company forever. I mean, I think he's a part owner. I think he might have stake in ownership or something like that. I'm not really sure, but yeah. But there's still a lot of good stuff in these shows. So let's start with night one. Overall, this is one of the longest PWG shows in recent memory. Um, very tough to sit through. There's a lot of good stuff on it, but there's a lot of matches, a lot of first round matches. Um, some of the matches got a little bit too much time, I would say that. So the one problem with the show right off the bat is the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks were, I believe they were scheduled to work No Surrender the very next night. Or were they? Oh, I don't know. No, actually they weren't. They, for some reason, I think TNA just pulled them for whatever reason. So they were only allowed to work on the Friday night, not the Saturday night. So they were supposed to face each other in a tournament match. But for whatever reason, that was scrapped. The Young Bucks, and kayfabe wise, as far as what they did, the Young Bucks didn't want to wrestle each other, so they had bigger and better things to worry about, and that's TNA. So then the Cutler brothers came out, challenged them to a match. So we kind of had like an impromptu match between the Cutlers and the Young Bucks, which was good, not their best match, but it was still a great opening match. I had no problem with that. So as far as the other first round matches that stood out, you had Brandon Gatson and Ryan Taylor. Now, the thing about this was Gatson's showing this whole weekend was disappointing, and I would say now that he's not ready to be the PWG champion at all. I think they need to put him on the mic. He needs more experience. He needs a lot of work in the ring as well. I mean, he relies on too much gymnastic stuff, in my opinion, but he's still a good wrestler, though. Don't get me wrong. He can still pull out a lot of nice moves, but is it the right time for him to be the PWG champion? Nah, not at all. Just not right now. After this weekend, I'm a little bit more down on him than I was before. So I would just say that. Joey Ryan and Chuck Taylor, pretty solid match. Joey Ryan advanced. Had no problem with this. This was solid. I really felt like Taylor could have been utilized a lot better this weekend. I feel like he's probably the one up-and-coming guy that probably is ready for it. I think Taylor will be the guy that's ready for the PWG Championship a lot sooner than Gatson is. So I just didn't like the way he was used. So Joey Ryan went over him in a good, solid match. Nothing bad, but Paul London and Roderick Strong was pretty disgusting. Just a very disgusting match. I did not like this. Once you see the match, you realize why. One of the worst Roderick Strong matches I've seen in a long time. I'm just not feeling Paul London right now. I just don't think his heart is in it. Even Paul London and El Generico as the tag team champions, I'm not really too high on them. But and next up, we got Claudio Castagnoli versus Ricochet. Ricochet is actually from Chikara. I believe he plays Helios. He's actually the masked Helios in Chikara. But yeah, him and Claudio, Ricochet and Claudio had an awesome match. This was probably the best match on night one. Extremely athletic. If you've seen Ricochet before, you know what to expect. Kind of a spot happy guy, but him and Claudio just make for a great combination. Claudio works well with the high-flying, skinny guys that can move in the ring, and this was no exception. This was awesome. Definitely the best first round matchup by far. Next up, we had Austin Aries and Rocky Romero. They've had matches in Ring of Honor before that I remember. They had a match at Good Times, Great Memories, which was extremely underrated. But yeah, this was good actually. It took a while to get going. Aries was kind of in character at first, But then a lot of good stuff between Romero and Aries. A lot of good submission wrestling. A lot of great counters to the submissions. Aries gave a great effort here compared to last year. Last year he just dog fucked the whole tournament, but here I would say Aries was delivered above expectations. He really impressed me in his matches. So yeah, Aries actually went over. I believe he made Rock Romero tap out with the last chance. Brandon Bonham and Brian Cage, pretty forgettable. Don't really remember much about it. Brian Cage, and both Bonham and Cage pretty much have forgettable showings this weekend. And then we had El Generico versus Akira Tozawa. Pretty standard stuff. Tozawa, I'll talk more about him later, but wow, I'm really sold on this guy. Him and Generico made a good combination. A good match. There was a referee fuck up that kind of hurt the match, but it was still good. And then the main event from night one, we had Christopher Daniels and Chris Hero. This was good. You know, Daniels doesn't really put out in PWG. You know, a lot of people probably know about this, but Daniels doesn't really take PWG seriously. And a lot of the fans, you could tell they knew that as well. They were definitely on Hero's side for the entire match. But Hero brought the best out of Daniels here. He really busted his ass and really made Daniels work. But Daniels kind of slacked off. I mean, he's putting in more effort into his ROH matches. This match in PWG, you know, it could have been a lot better. You know, Heroes and Daniels in the main event, you would expect at least a 4-star match. Didn't really hit that level, but it was still good stuff. Give Chris Hero a lot of credit. I thought he performed beautifully throughout this whole tournament. Actually, he's one of the few guys that did step up to the plate and give a great showing. So that was PWG Battle Los Angeles Night 1. I'd probably give it like a 7.5. There's still a lot of good stuff on it, but pretty tough to sit through. A lot of the matches got a little bit too much time, in my opinion, and some of the matches were kind of disappointing. All right, next up we have Bola Night 2. Once again, you know, pretty disappointing, but a lot of good stuff on this show. We started off with Austin Aries and Joey Ryan. This was really cool. They did a lot of cool things in the match. Aries was kind of stalling for time, and then Joey Ryan hit him with the super kick out of nowhere, and the match just got pretty awesome, actually. A lot better than expected. A great opener between Joey Ryan and Austin Aries. Two guys that are very, very similar in characters and the way not really the way they wrestle, but it's a nice matchup there, so that was good. Claudio Castagnoli and Roderick Strong was kind of disappointing. Roderick, his performance was kind of underwhelming this whole weekend. You know, he had Glory by Honor the next weekend. I'm sure he had that on his mind, but him and Claudio had a pretty good match. Nothing amazing. Roderick, once again, wasn't as stiff as he usually is. For some reason, he's toning down his chops. He's just toning down his overall you know, arsenal in the ring. As far as PWG goes, I would say that. Definitely from this weekend, I agree with that. All right, next up we have Brandon Bonham and Brandon Gatson. Once again, very disappointing. Just another very short match. I think Bonham was hurt for this match, so this couldn't really go that long. But Gatson pulled out a lot of sick things in this match, so I would say that. So next up we get the match of the weekend, Chris Hero versus Akira Tozawa. I'm going to wake up for this review now. Yeah. This was awesome. This was probably the best match that it's probably, I'm going to say this is the best match PWG has had all year outside of all the Davey Richards title defenses, without a doubt. This was awesome. This is like Akira Tozawa's breakout match. He just looked amazing here. Him and Hero just had an amazing match. Very, very stiff. A lot of no-selling. A very emotional match. One of the most emotional matches you will see this year. And what made this match even better was the aftermath. When Chris Hero went to hug Tozawa, like it felt like it was from the heart, like it felt real. The crowd gave both of them a standing ovation. Like Akira Tozawa, man, definitely, you know, this was his breakout match, and definitely the match. Everyone needs to check Night 2 out just to see this match because it was that good. 4.5 stars without a doubt. Probably on its way to 5 stars. You could actually, like, if someone gave this 5 stars, like I could actually see your point, and I wouldn't really argue with you. So that's how good I thought it was. So. Hero versus Tozawa. Can't say enough about it. Definitely the highlight of Night 2. Highlight of Bola 2010. Definitely stole the show. Alright, so next up we have Claudio Castagnoli and Joey Ryan. A good match, you know, really, really good stuff between both of these guys. Claudio looked very, very impressive as always. You know, Joey Ryan. Give Joey Ryan credit. He looked good this whole weekend. He looked like he slimmed down. He looked very, very toned. His performances were actually solid, but after Joey Ryan won the match, it felt very anticlimactic, and this is where the fans started going crazy. They were chanting, "Bullshit! This is bullshit!" You know, they were disappointed that Claudio didn't advance. I mean, this is when the fans really, really started getting a bad feeling about this whole weekend. And yeah, so that didn't come off very well. Next up, we had Brandon Gatson and Chris Hero. Not as good as their previous match, but didn't get enough time. But while it lasted, it was very, very stiff. Hero got a lot of nice elbow shots on Gatson. Gatson looked impressive. This is a nice back and forth matchup, and Gatson still looks strong, even though he lost to Hero. But a pretty solid ending here. Good match between Brandon Gatson and Chris Hero. Nothing really much to talk about, but it was solid. Next up, we had a good six-man tag match. You had Brian Cage, Chuck Taylor, Ryan Taylor taking on Johnny Goodtime, Ricochet, and Romero. Kind of thrown together, kind of random, but a pretty nice spot fest. Pretty much an example of a spot fest. Very, very good stuff. Ricochet pretty much stole the show here. All these guys looked impressive. A nice high-flying tag match. And then we had the tag team championship match. We had El Generico and Paul London taking on the Cutler brothers. Very disappointing. Just didn't get going at all. Definitely the weakest title defense from El Generico and Paul London so far. For some reason, it just didn't. This match just didn't get going. Kind of dragged, I would say that. Cutler brothers look pretty impressive. A lot more impressive than Generico and London did. But next up, we had the finals. We had Chris Hero versus Joey Ryan. I hate to say it, but this felt very, very stale, very, very repetitive, as expected. Crowd hated it. You know, very reminiscent of the Final Battle 2009 main event, where the fans just really couldn't wait for it to end. Very, very frustrated fans during this match. You know, it was very repetitive too. It felt like you were just watching an elbow, then a super kick, then an elbow, then a super kick. Hero tried to bring the best out of Joe Ryan, but it just didn't work. Ryan looked okay. The ending was kind of flat. Not really much to say about it, but I really think they had Joe Ryan win this thing just so they could start, building up their homegrown talent again, just as an insurance policy. I would just say that, just in case someone else leaves the company or is not going to commit to them fully. I would say that. So yeah, this is the PWG Battle Los Angeles 2010. I don't know. I would recommend it because there is some good stuff on these shows. There's a lot of great matches, but there's a lot of matches that are tough to sit through. But overall, the result is disappointing considering this is Bola, which is a really, really big show for PWG. It kind of under-delivered, I would say that. So this is night 2, and this is night 1. Overall, if you had to pick up one show, get night 2. But I would say probably night 1 still has a lot of good stuff on it as well. So, alright guys, thanks for watching.